Hi, welcome to It's Only Rock and Roll, but we like it. Today we've got a very interesting episode, episode 6, which we hope you're going to enjoy. In the mid-90s, some bands playing in Glasgow, knocking about together and creating a movement called the Chemical Underground were very much getting on with their music. And a French chef came along who also enjoyed their music and said, come to France and play at my local town. So he bundled them all onto a bus, sent them off to northern France for the weekend, and all these young musicians all together, all thrown in together, played a festival in the little town of Moron in Brittany. What could possibly go wrong? Well, move on 20 years, they made a film about it, and they actually reenacted that journey, that same journey, an award-winning film by Niall. We're going to talk to Niall, we're going to talk to Paul Savage of the Delgados, and we're going to talk to that chef, David Sosson. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to this episode of It's Only Rock and Roll. We love it. We're going sort of full circle. We started off in Scotland with Stan Urban, rock and roll pianist, and we've gone full circle via, what should we say, Pink Floyd over in Moscow and back to Glasgow, the indie music scene. And in the mix, it's real melange because we've got food, we've got cuisine, we've got filmmaker, and of course music, holding it all together in a nice melange of various aspects. So Russell, who we got lined up? Tell us, spill the beans.
Well, to be honest, this is a fascinating one because, like you said, we've got all these interesting people again on our podcast, and I feel like it's a pretext to a joke.
Yeah. Come on.
There's a Scotsman, there's an Irishman, and a Frenchman, and they walk into a bar in a little town in Brittany. But it's not a joke. It's actually something that really happened, and it's really interesting. And, hopefully today, in this next hour, we can be taken through a journey with you guys that you embarked on, 30 years ago, I guess, wasn't it, David? Something like that?
28 years.
Yeah. And I would just like to introduce those people first. Obviously, I was talking about the Scotsman, and we've got Paul Savage, musician.
Hello.
From the Delgados, and welcome. Producer, engineer, record company, band leader. There's so many strings to your bow. And then we've got obviously the Irishman I referred to, renowned filmmaker Niall McCann. Welcome. And we're going to hear a lot about how you got involved. We will be starting 30 years back, and we'll include you a bit later on.
Yeah.
Don't think we've forgotten about you, but obviously you were there right at the beginning.
Please do.
And then sitting next to me, my old friend David Sosson, who he's the Frenchman, and he's our French chef who keeps us well fed. And it's you who brought the whole thing in the first place. So yeah, that's it really. We're really pleased that you come on. I really appreciate it. Everybody's busy, and Niall's moving house and doing lots of other stuff as well.
And I've two very young children who, if they don't come running in, will be doing well.
We're cool with that. So over to you, Phil.
Yeah, Bonnie Tyler fans, sorry, she's not appearing despite the title of this episode, Lost in France. But from France, let's go to Glasgow, where it all started. And we're going to start with Paul, I think, really, because, you give us a bit of an overview of the indie scene in Glasgow, the Chemical Underground setup. Was it a bit like what happened in Manchester with Factory and the Hacienda?
I suppose it was a little bit. And also, we were very influenced by Factory Records as well, being big fans of Joy Division, New Order, that kind of stuff, and the aesthetic as well as the music, the way they presented themselves. They had a real identity. So, we took a lot of influence from that, and I think in the 90s, Glasgow Glasgow went through a number of different phases. I think the start of the 90s was dominated by Teenage Fan Club. I don't know if you know. One of my favourite bands. I'm actually working with one member of them just now. They are like iconic in Scotland, at least in the kind of independent scene, and they broke America really in like, I think it was like Bandwagon-esque, their second album, and it must have been around about 1991. So Glasgow was full of people who loved Teenage Fan Club and kind of copied them, I would say. So the indie scene in Glasgow got quite fixed, and it took a few years. I'd say 1994 when we started playing, and other bands began to get a little tired of the whole scene being kind of mimicking the success that this brilliant band had, and started to celebrate the diversity that was coming through. So people then began to say, well, this is our thing, this is what we do, and we're not like anybody else. So you had like Alex in a band called the Blisters, and Alex, who went on to form Franz Ferdinand, he would be dressed immaculately in kind of an old 1920s suit with a pocket watch and greased back hair. And then there would be Biss, who were like cartoon pop. And then there was us, who were kind of probably more American influenced, and just a mix of different things. And people started to celebrate the fact that we were all beginning to be different. So that was the scene that was just bubbling up. And
you mentioned a few. Sorry, you mentioned
Right.
a few bands there and people involved with the bands. Run through some of the others who were so important at that time.
Well, in that scene, who would I say? It's hard to say. Well, just after we got together as a label, we signed Mogwai. Again, Mogwai were coming up as just young kids, playing these venues that we played in, and they've gone on to be global success. Still playing today, still releasing records. Yeah, lots of other bands that you probably would never have heard of, but it was just a really, really amazing, exciting scene. And David turned up at that point in Glasgow because, I don't know, why did you turn up?
Okay.
Why did you come to Glasgow?
To show you how to cook.
Yeah,
To show the Scottish how to cook.
yeah. Well, I'd still mastering the idea of pot noodles. So
Oh, yeah, pot noodles. Yeah, okay.
He's a special.
So, just a little interjection there, Paul. So you were the epitome of the struggling poor musician, just doing it because you loved it, and
Yeah.
kicking around Glasgow as mates together, seeing the same old faces, obviously doing different things, but all the gigs, all the venues, all the punters, probably a little bit of following here and there, and
Yeah.
that sort of vibe, I would imagine.
Yes. Oh, it was very much I think it maybe when people are in their 20s, because I look back now and I think, is there a scene like that in Glasgow? And the quick answer is, for me, is no. But I think that's unfair to the kids that are in their early 20s who do have a scene. It's just, I'm not part of it anymore. And I think that's the thing. It just it does happen at a certain age.
I did, something just sprang to mind, which was I used to, every Tuesday night in London at a club called the 100 Club, which is predominantly a jazz club. But on Tuesday night, they opened it up. It was punk night. So UK subs, Anti-Nowhere League, Chelsea, Generation X, all that. And I always used to volunteer in the company I was working with at that time to go down on those gigs. No one wanted to do it because you get spat at and all that. But I loved it. I loved the energy. And there was a back staircase, which was terrible, but loading, and we set up there. And from the minute the band struck up, all all the people who we all knew, all these people who probably hadn't eaten for a week, with their spiky, were on stage, and it was chaos, but it was great. And at the end of the gig, all the punters used to help us load out. It was talking about the camaraderie, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean, they cause us chaos. They'd be gobbing all over the place. They'd be knocking mic stands over, and trumpets would go flying. But it was, there was still that respect and camaraderie. Let's help them there.
Oh, it's great to be part of a kind of almost like a revolution.
Yeah,
certainly punk was. I can't say our scene was in our little circle. It was.
It seemed like that. It seems like that from what you're saying. And I was telling David before, I sort of missed that because by then I'd moved. When your thing was happening, 94 through to 96, 97, I was sort of in the Gulf promoting bands. We were doing tours, and so I was sort of out of it. So I missed it a bit. So this is really very interesting to me. But I just wanted to ask you, David, because obviously what Phil was alluding to then was, you turned up, you're training to be a chef. You don't speak much English.
I don't speak English.
You don't speak.
I have
but you also have a real passion for music, and you really got under the skin of this whole movement. And maybe you could just tell us a bit about that, because that's quite interesting in itself.
Yeah, I think it's starting first from where I come from. So I'm from Brittany and from Moron, where we organize a festival. This is where you have nothing. You have nothing around. It is not a big town. It's very small, 3,500 people.
You have a lot of tractors.
Tractors, and you have more cow than people living there. So, being at about 50 kilometers from the big town, we had to go. If you like music and if you want to see bands, we had to do 50 kilometers to go and see the bands. So start 90s, we were a group of friends going to Rennes, to this big town, and then start to see bands like Pearl and all these Britpop bands was coming on in early 90s. And then we said, why not we do something ourselves? And we start to bring bands. So in 92, I think we started to bring bands around, and I mean French bands mainly, so we started quite small. We have been always small, but every year we was trying to expand. And then I had also my education, and I was starting to grow as a chef and work around in France in star Michelin restaurants and on. This music thing was more like camaraderie and friendship, and also passion about music,
Yeah.
So really passion about what's coming on from UK, and also what was good in France as a rock band.
So David, the chef, moves to Glasgow and also starts seeking out all these bands in Glasgow.
So I moved to Glasgow as a chef, but also in the idea to go to Asia. And people told me, if you want to go to Asia, you have to speak English. So knowing nothing about Scotland, just knowing that is in UK, I said, okay, I have an offer in Glasgow. Let's go to Glasgow. And I heard about Glasgow in music as well, but not in culinary. So let's try and go. Then it's a French company called Pierre Victoire who bring me in. And then I started there, and being in Glasgow, first year I was there, I didn't speak English, but I think I went to see about 40 to 45 bands around and start to go and see bands. And at the same time, I told my friend in France, I was calling them in this red box. At that time, we didn't have
red box. Yes.
we was putting pounds and calling, and then sometimes you didn't have enough money so it was stopping. So I was calling my friend and say, there is so many bands around.
Yeah.
And I called my friend Bruno, told me, bring bands. I said, I don't know anybody, and I don't speak English.
Well, I'll stop you there at the moment because we will come to how you got the bands in. But just
Yeah.
out to all of you guys, some of the iconic, I think they're iconic, some of the old venues in Glasgow in those days. Some are still there, some are not. I mean, I'll throw some names at you, especially you, Paul. There's obviously the Barrowlands. Everyone knows
Yeah.
Barrowland. The Roxy, and one that I did a lot, which was the legendary Glasgow Apollo, no longer there, I think.
Yeah.
With,
That's
with,
right.
with its 15-foot stage high.
Yeah.
If you ever went there, Phil, but the Glasgow Apollo had a 15-foot high stage.
Unbelievable.
Well, off that you die. But I thought it was to keep everybody off the stage, but apparently it was a cinema before and all that stuff. But I have memories of the Glasgow Apollo, how difficult it was to load in. There was like a ramp, and if the flight case fell off this narrow ramp, you and the flight case would end up in the stall. I mean, do you remember all that, Paul, especially?
Well, the Apollo, unfortunately, I never made it to the Apollo. I just missed it. I was just a bit too young. But
So I am too old.
I don't get to say that. I don't get to say that too often.
That's
So unfortunately I missed it, but I've heard lots of stories. And I heard a fascinating story from a guy who used to be the crew. Like, the crew had a reputation at the Apollo, and you probably met all those guys.
Yeah.
They were tough. Like, they were really, really tough. And the stories this guy, Brian, told me were fascinating. One of the most famous gigs at the Apollo was the ABBA show.
Yeah.
Now, everyone talks about this amazing ABBA show. In fact, ABBA might have even referenced it in Super Trooper. Because the first line is, "I was sick and tired of everything when I called you last night from Glasgow."
Oh,
That's in Super Trooper. But apparently this show was nearly off because the bouncers and the crew took offence to ABBA's quite hippie-looking sound engineer who was doing the sound at sound check and then decided to walk up into the higher stalls. And he was walking around with his long hair and barefoot. And one of the guys there, one of the big mean guys, was just like, "Who the fuck is this guy? I'm going to kick shit out of him." And Brian was just this guy that told me the story, was just a new sort of like trainee. And he went up to him and was like, "Please don't touch him, don't touch him. He's the sound engineer." Guy said, "I don't give a shit who he is. He's getting out of here." And he had to plead with him. They had to stop him. And there was an altercation that nearly happened. And the whole show would have been off, obviously, if they had beaten up this sound engineer. So narrowly avoided. But apparently that was what the crew were like. They were quite crazy.
yeah. Not only that, Paul, sorry, and we do digress here. This is one of my digress. I remember, because in those early days, we never really had, backstage catering and stuff. So you've done the loadout and you're starving. And in Socky Hole Street, it's not the most wholesome place at 2 o'clock in the morning, as you, no offense, but and they, I don't know if you remember, or maybe it went after the Apollo, but there was always a burger stand, sort of 24-hour place where you could get a cup of tea and you get a burger. And we used to, go out. And I remember wandering around there it must have been about 2 o'clock in the morning, and freezing cold. And this guy came up to me, with a broken nose, and forgive my Scottish or Glaswegian accent, and said, "Hey, Paul, you wouldn't have a cheeky wee dent beef for a cup of tea, would you?" And I was so intimidated, being a soft southerner, that I emptied my pockets.
Yeah.
He was ever so grateful, but it was just the sheer intimidation of this guy with his broken nose. He probably had a few whiskeys, and but it was a lively place. And some of the other gigs, I did Barrowlands as well, which is
Oh, the Barrowlands is another fascinating place because, again, that same guy who really should be on your podcast, Brian, was telling me that he built what is now the Barrowlands stage, because if you know the Barrowlands, it was a ballroom, a floated floor, beautiful old building, but the stage is the wrong way around now. because the old stage was for a big band and it was a kind of tiered stage.
Yeah.
And they built this fake one for a Simple Minds video. And that's the one that still exists. It was a makeshift. Or we'll just do it for the shoot. And it's still there. And the actual stage is the opposite side. So, yeah.
Anyway, Phil, well, I think we need to set the scene for this film, and
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's lots to talk about.
Moving to his next house.
Absolutely, there's chemical records and that aspect as well. We'll come back to that a bit later on. But someone who's been waiting patiently in the wings, let's bring on board at last, Niall, filmmaker. And how did you get involved in Niall?
Well, I started making films in about 2012, and I'd made a film about, I don't know if you know the artist, but Luke Haynes, who was in a band called the Auteurs, called Art Will Save the World was the name of the film. And really, I'm not very good at, like, you know, being very clever economically. So I wanted to make films to celebrate the music I loved, really.
Yeah.
I didn't think about, you know, I was young, and like Paul says, it's different. You don't have the economic pressure that you might have when you get older. So I just wanted to make films about musicians I loved and, you know, celebrate them. And so I'd made
Give us a few examples of the people who you admired and made films of.
Well, not many. Well, Luke Haynes from the Auteurs, and then it takes so long to make a film.
Sure.
So like the Luke Haynes film took me 4 years to make. You know, from funding, you know, conception, funding, and then you production,
sure.
and then finishing it and clearing all the music, which is a big problem, especially now, because budgets have gotten smaller, and it's very difficult to raise the finance to at least release music films to a wide audience. It's very difficult. But so 4 years per film. So I'm on to my fourth film at the minute, which isn't actually about a musician, but he did write about music. But a guy called Mark Fisher. So I've made 3 feature films, some documentaries for TV in Ireland, and quite a few music videos. But I take my time. I'm probably too slow. So anyway, I'd made the Luke Haynes film. I was at a film festival in Lisbon, and I was listening to. I realized I was listening to a lot of music from Chemical Underground, and we always did. I grew up in Dundalk, and myself and my close friends were big music fans, and we loved Chemical Underground. We loved Glasgow music, not just Chemical Underground, but that was a big thing, and what those guys were doing, and it was very inspiring. So I was by myself at film festivals a lot. I was listening to music, realized I'm listening to a lot of Chemical Underground. I wonder, is there a way of getting in touch with these guys? And I was at an Aidan Moffat gig, I think in 2013 in Dublin. Aidan Moffat was in Arab Strap, who were on Chemical Underground, really important band. And I approached Aidan after the gig and said, look, and I used to do this all the time, but I said, look, I'd love to make a film about you and the guys at Chemical. And he gave me, he knew who Luke Haynes was, which helped, but he gave me contact, and we started talking on the phone. I flew over to meet Aidan, and he told me about the story about Meron, and that's really where it all.
Okay, yeah.
My part of it comes from.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you said funding is so difficult to get, and at that time perhaps a little bit easier. But how did you get funding for this film?
Well, this actually had a comparatively decent budget. I knew a film producer in Dublin called Nikki Gogan. She works for Still Films, very great producer, and she got in touch with Paul Welch, who's Glasgow-based, Edge City Films. So it was a co-production between Ireland and Scotland. But generally, what you do is you get a tiny bit of financing to make like a promo.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So I got some money off Screen Ireland here, and I just flew over and met. I remember meeting Paul, and we went to get food. First time I met him, and neither of us eat fish, but we didn't want to seem uncultured, so we both ate fish for dinner, and then afterwards realized that neither of us like fish, and we only did it to not seem like an awful Irish person, Glaswegian person doesn't eat fish. I don't eat fish, but
You still don't.
Yeah.
We've got a chef here who probably does a lot of cooking of chefs and some very fine dishes, no doubt. Okay, you need convincing.
Oh, no,
so the process.
Just on fish, I was at in Athens with this film, and they brought us to like this really, really well, nice Michelin-starred restaurant for lunch, and it was like 12 courses of fish, each of them getting progressively, you
Fish.
know, more like crayfish or those kind of things. I ended up getting sick in the toilet because I didn't want to seem
Sure. Yeah.
uncultured to all these very cultured European filmmakers. That's probably an awful story to tell, but I was there with Lost in France.
Yeah. So Lost in France, I mean, the process of making the movie, how long did that take? And what was the starting point?
From 2013 to, I think we finished in about 2016. I was at Edinburgh Film Festival, and then we had a really big release in Glasgow the next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 or 5 years, that's generally how long.
There must have been some high spots of the making and low spots, and in between a lot of funny aspects to be working with.
Well, the guys are great, and
Yeah.
but it changed a lot. So like initially, Aidan was my way into the story, Aidan Moffat, but he had other commitments, so he had to he couldn't be involved in the film directly. So I kind of had to change tack then, and I remember having a meeting with Stuart Henderson, Stuart Braithwaite from Mogwai. Stuart Henderson founded Chemical with Paul and a few others. Paul, you weren't there, I don't think, but it was in Nice and Sleazy's, a very famous bar on on where's the Paul? Sorry,
I saw the famous Sauchiehall Street where Paul was, and
yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, around 2014, around then, things were quite precarious. I think it's fair to say, Paul, in the music industry, and things for Chemical Underground, maybe the future at the time didn't. It was unclear how it was going to go. And I realized that not only was David and Paul and the other guys' story like just a very inspiring story and wonderful story, but it also tells you a lot about how things have changed. And I thought bringing these guys to France and away from Glasgow might allow for things to, become apparent to them maybe. And not only it being a nice journey to go on, it becomes a road trip movie then. It gives them the space from Glasgow to, think and talk and reflect,
Yeah. And what was, I mean, a road trip, as you say, so from Glasgow to this little town or village, in fact, in Brittany, northern France.
Yeah.
What was the reaction when they got there? And what was the reaction from the locals?
Everyone, David and all the locals, they were amazing. They were like really, really incredible. And the welcome we got was just out of this world. We were in the local paper and stuff, it was great.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a bar, one of those signs outside a pub saying in French, "The Scottish are coming." It couldn't have happened without, obviously David, huge organizer on the film and on the original tour, but as well with all the people and Momo in the local pub where we shot most of the film. It can't happen. The thing, it takes an army to make a film. It's not just one person. So,
how would you sum up your connection between being the filmmaker and the guys in the band? I mean, was there a good synergy? There must have been.
Yeah, with most of them, I think. Yeah, certainly for the filming. One of the best things about making films is certainly about people, that inspire you or you're fond of their art, is that sometimes you meet people and they're really lovely, and Paul is one of those people. And I'd like to think we're still good friends, although life comes along and now a year goes past, like a month,
Yeah.
But
Paul, what are some of your main recollections from the process of creating and making the film and being part of it, of course?
Well, the surprising thing for me was I remember being I think Aidan introduced us, and then we started chatting, and I don't think I understood anything about what Niall wanted to do. So I was quite skeptical, I think.
Yeah,
before I met him,
And everyone, like if someone wants to make a film about you, the correct response is to say no.
Yeah.
Because a lot of films are really about like trying to, the way everyone's obsessed with trauma now, It's like everyone has to have a sad story. And I don't think this is a sad story. Obviously it's not. But I think it's normal to have that reaction that Paul and Stuart and them had. But I think that was tempered as well by the fact that they didn't know. Like I think at the time, like it wasn't really clear what would happen with Chemical.
No, I mean the label was. To be honest, the label we've never really been funded. We've always been independent. We've always been willfully difficult people, you know, not always choosing the right path for commercial things, or we've always done what we kind of just wanted to do, for better or worse. And I think at that point we were in one of those pretty bad shapes. We were readjusting to the world of, I suppose, streaming, which has decimated the music industry in a lot of ways and changed the world of music in quite a profound way. And we were probably trying to adjust to that and finding it difficult. And Stuart was finding it especially difficult. So when Niall said, I want to make a film and I want to talk to you about it, okay, I was, interested in speaking. So we met in this cafe for a coffee, and you started to explain about the idea of Moron and this trip. So we haven't actually talked about it. The first trip was 1997, when David managed to get a whole load of the Glasgow scene on a bus to go and drive down to, was it Southampton, Portsmouth, and then over to Saint Malo, and then down to Morong to play in this little festival. Now, the idea also, which is really, this is one of the things that kind of came to me when I was talking to Niall about it. He says, I want to talk about Morong. And I went, yeah, okay. And I hadn't thought about it for years. How absurd it was, because all of the bands that were involved had got bigger and bigger and bigger, to the extent that the idea of doing it on a single bus, like not a tour bus, just a single decker bus. And it was also kind of partially funded by saying to anybody that might want to come along, like any fans of the bands, do you want to come along? It's like 50 quid. You'll get the bus down with the bands. You come on the bus. You'll be there for like 2-3 days. We'll drive you back. I mean, it's like insane. It's like the whole idea is just mad. And then when we started talking about it, I realized that, well, yeah, Alex was in the Blisters, but now he's like in one of the biggest bands in the world with Franz Ferdinand, and Mogwai have, done what Mogwai have done, and just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and toured all over the place. Delgados had done okay as well. After that, we'd done, Mercury nominated and did 5 albums, toured the world, Arab Strap as well. So I began to realize that all of these kind of bands and part of the scene just exploded. But at that point, we were all still small enough to say, yeah, we'll go on a bus. It sounds like a laugh, we were all pals. And it was absolute chaos. It was so... It's the craziest thing I've ever done. And what an amazing weekend. And what a one-off. It would never have happened again. And Alex alludes to that in the film. He said, if it was like 3 months later, some of the bands had got bigger, and it would have been difficult to make... And I'm not saying it because of egos, but just the size of the bands were just getting bigger. And it was the right spot and the right time just to get everyone, yeah, we'll come on this bus. And no small part to David and his way with people, and his way with, we'll get round that, we'll be fine, talks people down, makes things happen. The fact that we got into France is down to David, because we were almost sent on the first ship back to the UK because we had destroyed the place. There was chairs thrown overboard, people missing. The bar was like, we were the last people in the bar. We weren't aggressive in any way, but we were just out of control. And
So,
David convinced the port
but
authorities to let us into France.
I think, Russell, you got your personal chef by the side of you. Let's find out what ingredients he sort of put into the recipe for this.
Well, I think thank you very much, Paul, for bringing us back to actually talk about the film is actually about something, a reenactment really
A
of something,
reenactment, yeah, sure.
something happened, the 20, 25 years, now 30 years before, and trying to recreate that. And after that, I'd like to follow on a question with you, Niall, about a few things related to that. But David, I mean, in those days, to put something on like that, I mean, what sort of age would you have been? 20?
19, yeah.
19?
19.
I think, and I really relate to that, because at 19, I promoted my own concert and in a local Catholic church hall, which turned into a disaster because the Catholic priest didn't realize that it was a rock and roll band. And I'd got the dry ice out of control, which had made mess on the stage floor. It was all slippery, and there was smoke. I had another electronic smoke machine which had gone out of control there, so you couldn't see the band anyway. And in the middle of it, this priest who had been drinking and was pissed came running across, slipped on the stage, and basically closed down the whole show. That was my disaster, my first one, but this was obviously a great success. But weren't you a bit daunted by that? I mean, the whole point of bringing this band, it's a lot of responsibility, but I guess you have that same thing at that age, and the same with the bands, where there's sort of no fear. It's a sort of you just want to do it, and you do it. You don't look at the consequences. You don't look at what could go wrong.
Yeah, but it's more than that, because it was a risk and not a risk, because at the same, after I met Paul and the guys of the Delgados, I met them in 1995, and I told them, okay, we organize a festival. I saw them in the Barrowlands. They was supporting Mercury Rev and Pavement, American bands. And I went to see them and said, I want to bring you to France. And then first time I met Paul and Emma, I think they was looking at me and say, what is saying this guy? Anyway, we started to meet, and then we learned how to know each other, and we became friends.
Yeah.
Then I bring them to play in France in 1996. So I bring them tomorrow. It was our first time that we was bringing bands from abroad, and they were supporting Wedding Present, so from Leeds. And I told them, we are bringing as a headline a Wedding Present. Do you want to support them? And we will do few concerts for you. And I think, Paul, it was the first time that you was coming in France, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think I organized like 2 other gigs. It was also, this would take too long, but this was also in the pubs. It was dogs watching the concert. I mean, it was also very funny. But it was not too much a risk, because I knew them already. I knew most of the bands of Chemical Underground, and I mean, all my weekends or time off, I was.
So you felt comfortable with it?
Yeah. I was giving hands as well in Chemical Underground, and we were mixing a lot, and we
Sticking
were
labels on
yes, sticking labels on records of Arab Strap. I remember the first Arab Strap single. Was putting labels on it, and then it was more about friendship and passion.
Yeah.
We were meeting in a pub called 14th Note, where you had Alex organizing a club there, and then all the bands of Glasgow was going there. You have Bell and Sebastian and the Delgados, Bis, the Pastels. I mean, I could say 100 of bands going there.
I mean,
everybody was,
Yeah.
melting together, and I was very much Mogwai was coming up. So it's people you were seeing on day-to-day basis. It was like very simple.
Yeah, so because you felt comfortable.
Yeah. And when I started to say, I want to bring you all there, we had a meeting. I think Paul was not there. I think Paul was not with Alun and Stuart and Emma, and said, David, you did it last year. Are you sure you can make it? Say, yeah. So the guys of Mogwai was there, and then it was Alex who was there. They look at me, okay. If Aaron and Stewart, okay, we go for it.
Do you think, Paul, there was a little bit of naivety on David's part? It was like he threw a hand grenade in this, a hand grenade of all these. If the bands are all this is a hand grenade, he threw it into a bus and said, I'll see you the other side. You know,
Yeah.
a hand grenade
Yeah.
of like youth and craziness and shit that was going on.
And they told me, how are you going to fund it? Because the deal was, I bring you over, I take care of everything, the booze, the
but
hotels, no fee.
Yeah.
So this was and the guy said, yeah, let's go for a weekend all together. I say, yeah, but I have 60 seats, half of the seats, I will sell it, and he will start to fund the bus because I had to pay for the bus.
Of course.
And actually, I pay the bus with my salary.
Yeah.
To start with. So I went to put the deposit, I took the bus, and then so each band, I think, had to bring like 4 or 5 people to make sure that they funding themselves. It was a bit like this, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Paul don't remember which thing.
So I think we could do another episode on that bus and the ferry journey.
Very early days of crowdfunding, by the sound of it, in a very unique manner.
Very unique idea.
Yeah, but what are your recollections? Because just to digress again a little bit, there is a very famous, infamous, certain Momo in Moron, and my friend Ian, by chance, bought a house near Moron. And,
right.
And David immediately dispatched my friend Ian, who likes a beer with a friend, you know. And the next thing I get all these pictures of Momo and Ian, you know, like with 10 beers lined up and having a really good time, and no English spoken by Momo, but they seem to manage quite well. What are your memories of the famous Momo and his cafe, and which was a central part in the square there, no?
Yes, it is. I mean, it may as well be the church. It's right next to the church, but it's probably more important than the church.
Yes.
And he's the priest. So when we first went there, I think the first thing we do is we go to and we meet Momo, and we all have a drink. And over that weekend, he's a kind of central character because it's the bar that everybody goes to and has a drink in. And over the years, I've been to Moron when David got married. I remember like seeing all the same people again. These people are like family, you know, to us. You know, like, you know, David's family and Momo and all the rest of all the people that organised the festival, Bruno, you know, Xavier, you know, all the people that were part of it, Erwan, you know, myself, David, Erwan, and Xavier, and my brother Scott, all of whom were at the first festival. We go away at least once a year to see a gig somewhere randomly, and we're going next week, is it? We're going to Lisbon to see the Hives. So we continue this tradition of you know. So these people are not just like, you know, we see each other as much as we can. No,
that's brilliant, and I do know about these trips that you do, Niall. So I think now we're piecing together very clearly why you were attracted to this story, because it is a little bit different from the norm, I would say. And what I gathered from the film is you managed to very cleverly, or let's say cleverly, but maybe by pure chance, extract from these guys some very personal feelings and something very special in this movie. Can you maybe elaborate a bit more on that, and how you was it by chance, or is it? I mean, we'll give you brilliance if you want brilliance, but no. I think a bit of both in that.
Yeah, chance is a big thing, but I think trust is really important. Yeah. And as you spend more time with people and they get to know you and they become more comfortable. And I think, as I said, when we got to Mehron, I remember the general feeling of everyone shifted because it became like a celebration. And they realized how important that moment might have been in a way that they didn't previously. Because they were coming home to, like, when it's at the end of the film, but the bus comes into Mehron Square and they get a hero's welcome, all of them, you know. And there's something special about that weekend, I think, in a way that couldn't really happen now. And I'm not sure that someone like David, in the same way, I mean, David, but like someone, and maybe even making the film I made, I'm not sure, it would be a lot more difficult now in today's environment with funding and stuff. Like things are shifting all the time. And you know, Alex Kapranos in the film talks about the importance of the welfare state. And if you look at it, there was space for people to make art and to do things. And all that, you know, also for people making films. And a lot of stuff has changed. Income revenues, obviously, in the music industry are different. So, yeah, I think it was a really important time. And what I love about what the guys have done and Paul and Chemical have done is that they've persevered, like they didn't give in, you know. So at the end of the film, there's a kind of precarity about the future that that they managed to get through and find a way to adapt. And I think that's something to celebrate. But like really, as David said, like the film is about friendship, you know. It is about all those other things, but ultimately it's about friendship and making art and people doing it not for economic reasons, doing it because they need to and they have to, you know?
And I
Yeah.
Niall, you manage also to include the crew into this. I mean, yourself
Yeah.
and people in Moron. Of course, us, we knew each other since long time, but you managed to put everybody on as a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
One team, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Was
And
the was not on the side, or it became that weekend. It became because they were all in the same accommodation.
yeah, under one house. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, to be honest.
And with people in town, you know, doing our catering and people are in the house the whole time. And like there is that you mentioned chance, but there's that organic thing of like the gig in the bar was not planned. So that happened when we were in the house. You know, people started talking and we said, we'll do this. So like the night before the gig was supposed to happen, all the amps that were supposed to come got cancelled. I remember that. I remember talking with the
I didn't
producer.
hear about that. I didn't know about
Oh
that.
yeah. The guys from
Yeah.
Holy Mountain came up to me. They were organizing it and they were like, the gear's cancelled, it's not coming. And I was like, fuck, you know, because we couldn't go back. We're not like going to leave Mehron and bring everyone again. And I honestly thought the whole thing was going to fall apart. But I think somehow we managed through. David, was it Bruno or someone?
Yeah, we found ways. We found
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. And I remember myself and Nikki. There's a scene in the film where we go to visit the Golden Tree. David, is it?
Yeah.
The Golden
Yes.
Tree?
Labrador.
Yeah. Nikki left all the petty cash we had to pay for everything in the park, in the car park. And we realized when we were like 30 minutes down the road, we went back and it was still there, thank God. But you know, like
But
things, when you're making anything, things can fall apart at any time.
each time that you were coming, an issue, I said, no problem, don't worry. We will.
Yeah.
we will.
That's what David's great at, you know, like he fixes stuff.
Yeah. He's still doing that in his job now.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
So, yeah, go on, Phil.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it sounded like you had to be very spontaneous, nimble, work very quickly because you didn't have a luxury of a long time frame to recreate new scenes, new settings, and get kit in. Yeah, so
yeah, I think we were there for about a week, and then there was shoots in Glasgow and stuff. But we're in Mehron for about a week, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. So I have to ask this question. I mean, obviously, the film's, you know, been a great success. It's a little time now, but I'm so grateful that you've come on to share it again with us and our listeners and viewers.
Oh, thanks for asking.
And I just, you know, if you haven't seen the movie, try and get it. How can people watch the movie now?
You can stream it on Curzon Cinema. You can stream online on their site. Amazon have loads of DVDs of it, I believe. You can order it. It's not expensive. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm not really sure. I think, yeah, it's online. It's streaming online. Like any of them, it's not on Netflix or anything like that, but you can stream it online
typical filmmaker. He's done that. Done
for
all
for a small fee.
So,
So,
Niall, what was perhaps some of your highlights of completing the movie, delivering this project? What was some of the highlights for you?
I didn't think it would happen. My favorite moment when we were filming, well, one of my favorite moments, apart from the concert, which was incredible. It was once in a lifetime kind of thing. But there's a bit at the end of the film where Stuart Henderson kind of realizes that the original trip was important. And I think that was important for Stuart, but as well for the film because it gave me a kind of ending, you know. Um, but yeah, it was just seeing these guys, well, getting to know the guys, it was really important, but just spending time with them and watching something I thought really special happen while we were there. And Alex being there as well, and Stuart from Mogwai and stuff like. We couldn't bring everyone back, which was unfortunate, but I remember when we all got there and I went, I can't believe this is happening. I really can't, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of the film. And it's about all the things that, like, as I've gotten older, I think are important. You know, friendship, nice memories, and music, you know, and art, and making art. And it's really celebration of that. And what David did was making art. What Paul does is making art. It's all about creating, you know, an environment where you feel you've achieved something and doing that yourself. And all these
Yeah.
people have done that. I think that's something to celebrate, you know.
And
Absolutely, yeah.
one of the easiest one to bring at the end was Alex, huh? Because he said yes straight away.
Alex said yes straight away, and I think that was key to the funders going, because there's commercial pressures, you know, and like it's about, you know, getting interest in a film, and Alex is quite famous. So when he said yes, I knew then, well, I think this will happen.
but in fairness to you, and I don't want to embarrass you with this, but I think what you managed to achieve, and like go back to what I was saying a little while ago, is, you know, you were lucky in some way that there was evolution during the movie where you actually got out of people some very interesting things, and not only a bit of discovery for themselves, but also during the movie.
Yeah.
And it was definitely, you know, very well put together in the end because it was a real life story.
Yeah, yeah.
About real people and real things. And I think the underlying thing was camaraderie and, you know, love for what you do, love for each other. And I think that came across very well. And I must congratulate you for that. And
Thank you.
For all the participants, and
Yeah.
and I'm right to be proud of it. But
I think it's very funny as well. That's one thing about Glasgow people.
oh yeah, because life,
You know,
life.
and some of the stories, you know, like Stuart Henderson standing, you know, out of his mind, drunk, looking, you know, side of the road and just falling back into a ditch, you know. Because people, you know, when you're young like that, and that was you know, when people are young and these guys went on this trip, like the stuff they were doing was crazy.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff we didn't put in the film because it would incriminate people, but you
No,
know,
we
it
like to
was,
see the outtakes, yeah.
yeah.
Well, there was at that point when we went over, part of the reason we went so crazy on the boat was I think Mogwai had been to tour Norway, and in Norway the alcohol's very expensive, and so the kids had invented these interesting ways of getting alcohol or making the most use of it. One of them was, they said, you don't drink whiskey, you snort it.
What?
Which is insane. But that got round on the boat, and we didn't have much money, so we were all buying whiskies and snorting it on the boat.
Dear, oh dear.
I know. It's insane. And no wonder some chairs went missing.
And someone said was cold sitting up in the deck, so they put a bin on fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was called by the captain, by the way.
Yeah.
They had to go 2 o'clock in the morning and speak with the captain.
Yeah.
That's rock and roll. Real rock and roll for you. Guys, Paul, and what would you say you've got out of this film, really, as far as the film's been made. It's a great success, and you're all very proud of it. But how has it changed things for you and what you do?
I think it's made me appreciate some of the things that we do. I mean, I don't want to sit still and just look back, but it has made me realize. It gives me a bit of perspective on the way that the industry is just now. It is difficult, and we were very lucky at a moment in time to do that. But actually, the making of the film brought a kind of realization of what things we should be proud of. As a label, we're not very good at looking back. But bringing us back together with David and getting to see all our friends from Morong was really important. Meeting a new friend in Niall, which we still, again, we don't see each other that often, but we keep in touch and we chat. And that's important. That's essentially what the film is about. But it's also that's also a big part of it moving forward. It hasn't just disappeared. I mean, I'm seeing. The fact is, we keep on trying to make, a trip to Ireland happen and to see Niall, and we talk quite regularly. So, and I've been friends with David for over 30 years.
But don't
yeah.
don't you think, Paul? I've sort of I don't know how old you are, but I'm 65 now, and I retired a couple of years ago, and I really become quite nostalgic about things. I start, because I've got more time now. I start to think about, what? How the hell did we do that? That was crazy. Wow, that was, and it's really nice actually. And I'm totally I'm not ashamed of it to look back with fondness. Yeah, that was then. It's different now, and we live in the now. We live in what we're doing now. But it's not so bad to look back and be grateful, be thankful of these things. And what about you, Niall? What's it done for you? Do you feel same question really?
Yeah.
Since
Well, it's that thing you said there of looking back and being proud. I'm very proud of the film. Um, I'm not sure it set me up for a great career, not because of the film. It could have done. There was other things going on at the time where maybe I could have gone on to make certain documentaries that I probably could have, like big names maybe, but I decided to make something about that I was interested in, and I'm still doing that. And I said at the top of the show, it's never really been about a career or making money, and I'm not a professional. I just want to make art, and I want to make art about things that I'm interested in, really. And the most important thing has been that thing again. It does sound silly, but it is about friendships and what has come out of it, and I really love Paul. I love David, and being involved in that whole process. And that's why, like in the film, you'll see the crew the whole time, the crew filming and stuff, because it's not just the film, it's about the making of the film. It's about this idea of community and people doing something like this together. Um, and I'm really proud of it. And it allowed me to make more films. Like, that's true, but films I wanted to make, and it taught me that what these guys taught me that, like, if you push and don't give up, sometimes you'll get to where you want to go. Not always, but like it's like the journey to Meron. Sometimes the journey is the important thing,
yeah, of course.
So
David, David, you obviously, I mean, guys, David's passionate about music, still passionate about music. I mean, we share bands and music. We enjoy a lot of the same type of music. And but David, I mean, the guys also, I'd ask you. I mean, David's had an amazing career since all this happened.
Yeah.
Which has got nothing to do with it. But I must mention David. I mean, last year, maybe you just quickly tell us. I was so impressed and so proud of him. Even my daughter's so proud of David, where he won best chef in the world for whatever. What was it?
Airport, yeah.
Yeah, best airport chef in the world. And you know, we're all so proud of what he's done, but it's totally different from music. But he's still got that passion, you know, even though in his personal career he's excelled from being that trainee chef or whatever he was in Glasgow, not knowing any English, to learning a little bit more English now. You speak a little bit more.
Yeah, partly because of Paul, you know?
Yeah.
Because I went on tour with the Delgados, and then he was teaching me about English. He was not leaving me alone when I was driving.
I kept you awake. That's why.
Yeah. So all in all, I think you touched on something that's really, really very important, and I just want to bring that up actually, because I think we're coming sort of to an end. We've gone off. There were a lot more things I wanted to talk about. I mean, Niall, I wanted to talk about going back to live, you know, with your parents at 30 and picking up those records and thinking possibly your career was on the rocks.
Well, I remember Aidan Moffat, who, like, to me was this massive, you know, star, and he is. But like, I remember my mom coming up to my room and saying, "There's some guy from Glasgow on the phone for you." You know, really weird. And even him phoning the house phone.
Yeah.
Like, we don't. Who does that now? But
yeah,
but it's that thing of, you know, when you find yourself in a certain spot, and just it's that thing I said about,
yeah,
you know, keep going.
I mean, that in itself, I love reading about that, you know, because everyone's been through that. We've got a future podcast with a person he was a starving musician back in the 80s when I knew him, and I've recently caught up with him again, and he gave up. That's it. He was in London from Sheffield, went back up to Sheffield, gave up, went to live with his parents, got a job as a postman, and a couple of years later, someone said, "You know, you're mad. Give it another go." He's still in his 20s. Went down to London. Some funny stories about how it happened, and ended up producing the Spice Girls. You know, it's like it's mad.
Yeah,
amazing.
And what I get out of this, and I'll just share this with you for what it's worth, is number one, you got to follow your dreams. You've got to follow your dreams, and I encourage my kids, and my daughter's a singer-songwriter. Follow your dreams. My son's a professional footballer. Follow your dreams. The most precarious businesses you could probably be in, except filmmaking. And my younger daughter, I don't know what the hell she's going to do, but you know, follow your dreams is number one for me. Don't give up. You mentioned it. You know, just don't give up. Just keep going. It's you're gonna, and actually, the times that you're down actually give you more ammunition for the times when you're up. You know, if that makes sense. And all things are possible if you put your mind to it. They really are. And, you know, friends, number 4 for me is friends are so important in all of this big journey that you go on. The camaraderie, we're in this together. They pick you up when you're down. You pick them up when they're down, you know, and the most important thing for me, which is great, and I love doing these podcasts, is fun and have a laugh. Because come on, don't take yourself too seriously. And you guys, it's the epitome of that, you know, in the film and the movie. It really brought that out for me. So thank you guys for that. And that's
now I want to come in with something for Russell and David. And David, first of all, congratulations on winning the World Airport Top Chef Award last year. But I mean, it's more than an airport. I mean, you were telling me earlier you got what, 600 back of house staff to look after, 28 outlets. So yeah, it's a massive, massive operation.
Yes, it's very big. We have 72
enormous. Yeah. Now, the guy on your left apparently is a bit of a chef at times, and I'm trying to put this into context. For me, it'd be so daunting. World top chef there. Russell does a bit of cooking for you when you visit. How is he? How is he?
When he comes to my house, I'm so intimidated, and he's either incredibly gracious or a brilliant liar, because he suffers my cooking so much.
Your cooking is good.
Yeah,
it's good, yeah? Does he go beyond baked beans on toast?
Yeah,
No, no.
fantastic.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, as Russell said, thanks to everyone for joining us on this podcast. And really, unfortunately, we're coming towards the end. But a question which I'll put to each of you, and what's perhaps been the most standout moment for you regarding this project over the past 20 years? What stood out most for you, Paul?
You mean to do with the film or
Yeah. Over the
general?
last 20 years. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, we're focusing on Lost in France project.
yeah. Let's see. Um,
Yeah, right from the beginning, from going there first of all, then to the reenactment and everything else. So,
Paul,
what stood out most for you?
Paul, we should mention the premiere, Glasgow Film Festival, and the band.
I was going to say that actually that crossed my mind that the culmination of not just the film but the other thing that we managed to do was do a show at the ABC in Glasgow,
Which
uh,
burnt down.
which burnt down. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
burnt down just after it,
yeah.
and
Was that
we played.
your parties? Was
Hey,
that your
just you, Russell.
Yeah, that was because somebody set a bin on fire. No,
Yeah,
it was,
follow on from the boat.
yeah. So we
Your
got together. We made this band, this kind of band of myself, Alex Capranis, Stuart Braithwaite, Emma,
Hobby.
and Hubby. Yeah. So yeah, it was, and we played lots of different songs. I was terrified. I had
Mm.
been, I was the drummer in the Delgados from '94 to 2005, and then I stopped. I stopped playing live. I didn't do any shows until until the film. And there's a moment in the film where Alex says to me, "Do you want to play drums? Do you know Jacqueline from our first album?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And I just went, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it." And then I went to my room and put my head in my hands. But how am I going to play drum? I've played drums for 15 years or something. Um, and and then listened to that song and got the drum part, and then I was terrified. I was terrified that night of the film. I was also thought, okay, I've done it now, that's fine. And then they said, big premiere in Glasgow. Why don't we get a band together? And again, I was like, yeah, okay. And then went away and just like put my head in my hands, like, what am I doing? I like put myself through this again. I'm not naturally the kind of person that likes to go on stage. I managed to do it for 10 years. I I I'm much better at it now as far as I'm, because like the nerves are better. But in no small part to the two Maron events, the Lost in France events, because it pushed me out of this the way I was, which was I was just a record producer now. I wasn't the guy. I was in one side of the glass. Not I wasn't the performer anymore. So I was comfortable with that. And now I like the idea that I could slip into it and do both. And so that was really important. The Glasgow show, where we showed the film and we played this kind of small time supergroup, that was important.
That must have been epic. And before going on to David, one other thing for you, Paul, Delgados, your reaction when John Peel said that the Delgados, one of the greatest bands in the world, from
Couldn't
the late
believe
great
that.
John Peel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, John was a massive part of our success. Listening to him do our first Peel session, he didn't listen to the sessions before he broadcast them, and listening to him get excited as the songs went on was one of the greatest moments. Again, you asked for a moment. There's another one, and there's the one that night where it was our 5th birthday party when he said that. We had been plying him with red wine all night though, so maybe it was a bit.
And John Walters, producer.
Yes, yeah.
David, now on across to you, and well, same question. Standout moment over the last 20 years of, well, 30 years now, isn't it, I suppose, of the project, Lost in France. What's been the biggest standout moment for you?
Year by year, I think I have realizing that it was quite something that we did in more, and we were all passionate. Everybody has his own work, his own activities, and me, I left 30 years ago abroad. when I got the call from Paul and Niall telling me we're coming tomorrow, I said, oh my gosh, how are we going to do that? Because not being there, and everybody is gone away from the people who was organizing these things. But I must say that this was great to share the story. I think it was an unknown story, and to recollect and to reconnect as well. I don't think I would have reconnect with Paul. I have been always in contact, Paul and Emma, but various people like Stuart from Mogwai, or even though Alex. I went to Brussels to speak to Alex for the movie. I don't remember for the film. I don't know if you remember, Niall. I was an hour away in holiday in 2014, and to speak to Alex. And I said, try to speak to him and see if he wants to come. Then I came back. He said he will call him. He will take a call. I remember. So I think it was good to reconnect. Now I am without that I wouldn't be in contact with Alex anymore. I think we chat quite often as well, and it's great. It's good to see that everybody has been evolving, and I'm quite proud of the full thing. Actually, I'm quite proud of the friends. I'm quite proud because everybody did it with passion and love. Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a good example of how important David is to everything involved. Like he did. He was the one who went to speak to Alex. I did ask him to, but he did.
Oh, you didn't ask me.
I didn't ask. No, you offered. Great. That's even better.
No, that's really important. Is it really important to say that although this film's about, this thing and there's a focus on pop stars and people like Alex, and the real superstar is David. He is the one guy that I would trust if there was something really difficult to do. I would want him to be there as part of the team because he makes things happen, and it's a real gift that he has.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah,
when we're in trouble, we call David.
Niall, from you, your most standout moment regarding the project.
I don't know if it's the most standout one, but the one that the most relief was walking out on stage to introduce the film at the Glasgow Film Festival in the ABC. I'd never spoken in front of that amount of people. It was completely sold out. It was just like people everywhere. And I thought it'd be good if I went out and told a joke from The Simpsons, So I said, if I can just say a few words, I'd be a better public speaker, and just silence, in the whole room. You could hear dust bowls coming in. And then I said, oh, tough crowd, which got a laugh, and that saved me. But seeing the supergroup play that night in front of an audience that big, it was just incredible. And the sense of achievement, I remember standing at the sound desk with my producer, and I said, I can't believe this is happening. And it happened. But thanks to everyone here,
You have to say, Niall, about the audience, because the audience in Glasgow was not was many bands, was many people who are
in the music scene, and
that's always the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was a very special night, I thought. Yeah, and then the film was that was actually screened into cinemas around Ireland and the UK. And a friend of mine was watching it in Dublin, and he sent me a picture of my massive head on this cinema screen. He said, "Look at your massive big head."
Oh dear.
But it was brilliant.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
absolutely fabulous. Russell, well done on getting this one together with your personal chef, David. Thanks very much indeed. Brilliant, insightful.
Really enjoyed it, guys. Thanks so much. And we have to come to a close. We could have quite easily done a couple of episodes of all the stories and that, but maybe they're just better kept to another day, Especially six you guys got up to Paul on the journey there and back all those years ago, and But anyway, we got a taste of it, and thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Niall, and your busy schedule. And we really wish you all the best. We love your philosophy on filmmaking, and
Indeed.
you really deserve all the success for that.
I'll hopefully have a film out next year. So
Yeah.
Okay.
you know.
We'll
Do so.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much indeed. It's been
Lovely
excellent,
chatting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's only rock and roll. A Phil Blizzard radio production.
Available on Apple, Amazon, Angami, Spotify, Deezer, Google, and all good podcast channels, and also now on YouTube. And if you would like to have a podcast production for your organisation, do get in touch with me. Drop me an email, philblizzardmedia@gmail.com.
A Phil Blizzard radio production.